Congratulations on making it to the end of the course. This is the part of the section where I'm going to run through some of the code that we've covered in the earlier lessons and do a quick overview. So we started by creating our HTML and then also a little bit of styling, and then we added styling later on in addition to the original styling. First, we selected all of the elements, created our main game object, added an event listener, and also connected the URL. So this URL is coming from a Google spreadsheet web app. So all of the data is sitting within a spreadsheet. Next, we did a fetch connection to the URL and return back the data within a JSON format. And using that data, we could calculate all of the data, and we also got the length of the data for the game. So this basically told us how many questions would be available. And we looped through the questions, but we're not really doing anything with that function. But we are holding that game array data within the game so that we can use it in the other functions. And next, we create a question. So this is the visual question for the user. We hide the next button. So that's the default action that we take. And we also check to see if we're out of questions. And if we are, then the game is over. We provide the user the score that they scored within the questions of the quiz. We tell them how many questions there were and how many they scored correct. And if the game is not over, then we let them know what question they are on and how many questions they have left. We clear the output content, and then we construct some divs. We create a div adding in text content, as well as adding a class to it, and then appending it to the main output part. As well, we randomize the options and then build out the options in a span, present them on the page, and also add in an event listener so that if it gets clicked, then we run a function called checker, adding in the text content. So this is the output, this is the option that we have, and then also adding in a few classes, and then hiding the answer in the background of the element object. This is our random array function. And then the other main function that we had was the checker function. So if any one of the options gets clicked, the first thing that we want to do is disable all the options so that the user can't click them anymore. So if you click one, it's going to disable the ability to click any of the other ones. And we kind of gray them out, mute them out with updating the color. We remove the class of answer so that they're no longer clickable, adding in and removing the event listener that we had added in. Then we set the target element into a variable called SEL, where you can see the text content. We check the text content against the answer, and if it's correct, then we output in the console correct, which is not visible to the user, but more importantly, we output within the button whether the user got it correct or whether they got it wrong. If they got it correct, then we make it green. If they got it wrong, we make it red, and we increase to the next question, and then we hide the next button. And then that's all we're doing within the code. And this gives us all of the functionality we need in order to run the game. And I also do suggest that you try the game out several times just to make sure that it's playing through as needed, make adjustments as well as needed. The URL that we use, we make sure and we check that we've got it visible within the URL so that if we can access it within the web browser, we can also access it within our fetch request, so we don't have any issues with that. And then we concluded the course section by building out a Google web app. And this was getting content from a spreadsheet, selecting the sheet that we wanted to use for the data, getting all of the data into an object called rows, and then slicing it and returning back all of the rows where we don't have the header. So the first row has the header, so that's why we're getting the additional rows. So we basically sliced the rows object and returned back questions object, and this is the one that we wanted to use. We looped through all of the available questions, constructed our JavaScript, our object, our JSON object, looped through all of the possible answers as well, and then created a response array. And then that array is what we're outputting. So we're stringifying that JSON object and outputting it into the text content output of the web app. and then publishing the web app. So we deploy it as a web app, which gives us a web URL. It actually gives us two URLs. So it gives us a testing version and then the live version. And the live version only updates when you update the project version. So while you're developing, try the test version. You could also link to the test version, but it's not advisable. The best way to go is to make sure that you're linking to the executable version. So make sure at the end of the URL, it's got the executable. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know within the Q&A section. I'd love to hear from you. And also one of the objectives as well before we conclude is to make the application dynamic so we can adjust the number of questions and adjust some of the options that we're providing as options for the questions. And that's not going to affect the application itself. So fully dynamic, and as we adjust these values, the application itself, when the user loads it, the data will adjust, and using that data, it adjusts how it presents the application to the user. And I hope you had an opportunity to try the code out for yourself. I'll see you in the next one.